We
Okay, welcome back to another episode of the relationship series. My name is Gina Spataro, and this is my lovely brother, Sam Spataro. And tonight, of course, we're talking about topics that relate to the mind, heart, spirit, all of it. Okay. Not only because, these are topics that people come to us about, but we know that everyone deals with something like this, and you're not alone. Okay. So this is a big one because I think Sam has something that he wants to share about this topic. But before we do, how was your week, Sam? I know it was your birthday, so happy birthday. How was
I'm a little bit older this
Yep.
week. They hit the big 4-4.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Had a great day. Bought myself my favorite dinner. Got some good gifts from the kids and the wife.
Mm-hmm.
Had surprise visits from our parents and the mother-in-law. Maybe my favorite lasagna.
That's nice.
And it was an awesome day.
Good.
Yeah, it was really nice outside. Work was great. Had a really good week actually. Tonight I have a coach that I pay that coaches me, one of Tony Robbins' top coaches on his coaching platform.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a really good reboot for some targets that I want to hit for 2020, even aside from all the challenges and obstacles and uncertainties that we're all facing. It's still important to keep on reaching for the stars despite what's happening around you. So I kind of needed that recalibration and reset some goals and some kind of outlines of how we're going to get there, which is pretty cool and empowering.
100%.
And here we are tonight, live on YouTube again.
Live on YouTube.
How's your week so far?
It's been really good. Honestly, I can't complain. I mean, the weather has been beautiful. Just my schedule has been great, so I can't complain. I have noticed that I have been kind of wearing myself a little bit thin this week, but that's okay. I've definitely prioritized some things, and it's funny how people use their agendas and their schedules for things. This week was a week where it's like I needed it for sure. So it kept me on track.
That's good. It's a lot of times when you get like that, you always need that device to get it out of your head and onto paper so you can have some sort of clarity and sanity in the midst of it all.
Yeah. So let's dive into our topic tonight, and it is on breakup mistakes. Some people exit a relationship and then like a month down the road or a year down the road, they think to themselves, oh my gosh, did I make the right choice? And how do you know if you make the right choice? Do you go with that gut feeling? Do you go with your heart? Do you go with your mind? Do you go with what you know? Do you go with there's so many things that can identify making a good choice and sometimes not such a good choice. But I think ultimately they're lessons for all of us, right? But what is it that you would like to share about this topic tonight, Sam? Because I know this was something you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, so I think this is a topic that kind of applies to everybody and anyone who's in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you get to that point where you have a crossroad and you collide and you have an argument or a disagreement. And a lot of the times you call it the end.
Yeah.
And then the end ends up being a new beginning until the next new ending appears. And then you have another new beginning. So, I think everyone and everybody at some point in a relationship always hits that fork in the road where your experiences start to accumulate. Maybe there's areas of your relationship you wish were getting better. And you come at a crossroad with your partner where, you both have things that, need to change, that need to improve. And you're almost still at the first place. Like nothing has changed. It gets good for a while. You kind of reconnect, you dive in, you give it your all. And then complacency sets in and all those old habitual habits and beliefs and the thought processes and the things that we do with our body carry us into the past, right? And just keep repeating over and over again. And, that really is the definition of insanity to its fullest, which is continually doing the same thing over and over and expecting for some freak reason that things will change. And, as Jim Rohn says, things don't change until you change. And I don't think fundamentally a lot of us know where to really start with that. I think deep down when we're all in relationships, we all want to improve, and we all want our partner to improve so we can experience more love, intimacy, adventure, happiness, and all those wonderful things that are supposed to be accumulated and felt along the way in the relationship. But however, we always come in that crossroad. And I watched an episode of Esther Perel and Louis Hayes on his podcast, and there is no perfect relationship. And I think that's really what it comes down to. A few weeks ago, I coached somebody who was in a relationship for about 5 years. They have kids, boyfriend, and it was pretty serious. And it was one of those on and off again things until one day, she called it off. He finally left, and she felt heartbroken. She was confused if it was the right thing. And I think a lot of us, at some point in a relationship, we're always faced with that. Did we make the right decision? Is this the one? Is this the forever? And I think really what it comes down to, is we have to really look at how we get here. Right. I mean, if we talk about perfection, it doesn't exist in any category when it comes to human life. Not in your finances, not in your work, not in your relationship. But for some freak reason, the way we're brought up and the things that we watch on TV and what we see in society and media, we have this different sort of picture, this illusion of, Young and the Restless type relationships, or these fantasy type things on movies that just really don't exist. Yeah. Let's face it, you look in the celebrity world, how many of those relationships last? They have all the resources, they have all the money, all the fame, all the stardom, all the attention, and it still doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So I think fundamentally, if we could really understand one thing, whether you're in a heterosexual relationship or not, is we are all uniquely different. We all come into a relationship as completely polar opposites as what we want in a life, what that picture looks like, what our needs are, what our desires are, what our expectations are. And at some point, you're going to hit that fork in the road where you're faced with a challenge, an obstacle. But what breaks us down, what leads us down the path of divorce in the end, and thinking that there's something else better out there? And let's just face it, the facts kind of tell the opposite, which is 50% of first marriages fail, 2% of second marriages fail by up to 70%, and third marriages fail up to 80%. So clearly it's not finding the new person that is the solution. So I think really what it comes down to stay on point is, I think we're all in on this. Anyone who is in a relationship, whether you've been together for a couple months, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, I think it's completely irrelevant. What really matters is what's controlling us. Who are we in the moment of challenge and obstacles that we face when we're, in that dilemma? What sort of belief system and thought processes do we have? We talk about relationships. It's a place of service. Mm-hmm. But when you're hurt and you're trying to express it to somebody else and they're also hurt, the only person you really care about in that moment is yourself, for the most part. And I think that's really where we need to start here is, why do we always feel like, when it comes to a challenge and obstacle, this has to be, and there's got to be something better, or this can't be solved, or this has to be end, or I can't take this anymore. Where really what it comes down to is, why am I believing that? Why am I feeling that? Why am I having these thoughts that at the end of it all, if you look at the results of going into this space and this place, what is the outcome of this? Is it positive, negative? How do I feel? How does my partner feel? How have I solved the problems to this? What are the solutions that I came up with that can help me feel more connected and love? And, I'm always focusing on finding a way to solve the problem, not finding a way to be part of the problem. And I think that's really we need to start.
Yeah. And I think just to put a side note in there, it's not to say that every relationship can be saved.
No.
because there are certain circumstances where it's like, okay, for the safety of you, your mental health, your well-being, you got to understand that fine line, right? Like abuse is not tolerated, infidelity. Sometimes, even with infidelity, a lot of people stay, and it's a beautiful thing afterwards, and you can recuperate after. Of course, like there's growth that comes out of it, but it for sure can sometimes, take that relationship for a whirlwind, spin around the world. However, but that being said, what Sam was pointing to and talking about a lot of the times is sometimes you are a contributor and you don't even realize it. So when you're in a relationship and you think everything is done and over and you have done everything at your core to give it your all, sometimes you haven't looked deep enough, because sometimes it's something that's within you that needs to change. There has to be a shift. Because I always say, because there's always one person in a relationship where it's like, well, I'm doing all the work and I'm doing all this and I'm changing. And I always say, well, that's a beautiful thing. Now you can become the teacher. You can be the one who leads, and you lead by example and by notion, and the way you speak, the way you act, the way you feel. Because sometimes, and we all know, even with children, it's like you have to lead by example, and sometimes people don't know how to start, and you have the ability to be the teacher and the source. And that's a powerful thing. It's getting out of your ego, being like, well, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this. My partner or my, husband, my spouse is struggling with this. Try leading, try being the teacher, try being the source of that light, because there will be shifts. If you change that shift within you, and your responses and the way you act, by all means, there will be a shift at some point within the relationship.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, those are some really, really good, solid points. And it's very supporting and understand that, and this really applies to this example that I'm speaking with, because there was multiple relationships prior to this that also failed. So what's following you isn't, a bunch of crappy men or crappy women. It's a bunch of crappy tools and instruments that you're bringing to a relationship. And these are limiting beliefs. Mm-hmm. These are values that you have that aren't empowering you. Yep. And, we did a video a long time ago when we originally started this channel called The Mirror Effect. Mm-hmm. And everything that's not working in your relationship is just literally an internal reflection of the things that you need to improve within yourself. Yeah. So whether it has to do with, infidelity, are you the type of person that maybe in the beginning was bringing a lot of adventure, a lot of variety, a lot of intimacy, a lot of surprise, and then through complacency and comfort, you've changed. You're not putting in that energy. You're not giving it your all, And so what happens is a lot of the times we start looking for what's missing, mm-hmm. right? And, whether it has to do with intimacy or attention or presence, or, making your man feel like he's on top of the world and irreplaceable, there's always things that we're seeking. And in order to get to a place where you want better than average, a lot of the times we have to get out of our way and understand really where we are, what's holding us back, which are the fundamental tools and instruments and beliefs and values that have been guiding us pretty much our whole life, that affect us in all areas other than relationships. And then you have to make a decision. Am I, like you always say, are you ready to do the work? Mm-hmm. We all have work that we can do to improve our relationships. Maybe you're with somebody that doesn't find it important to change and doesn't want to put that energy in. And now you might be contemplating whether or not you want to or not. I can tell you that when you get better, the relationship gets better automatically. It's just by nature that if you associate with people who are better you automatically become better. You automatically rise to the occasion because you're guilty by influence, So if I can kind of speak to that person who's watching this, who might be going through a struggle, or maybe he's contemplating whether they're with the right person, or maybe they've had 1, 2, 3, 4 shots of this They're considering ending this and finding an alternative before, I really, unless it's abusive or something really far out there where someone just cut it quits and move on, you really should take the time to work on yourself before you decide to make any decisions. Find a coach, go on YouTube, find people of influence who are expert relationships and dive in, and maybe you'll learn something that you're actually bringing to this relationship that isn't a helpful tool. Maybe it's in the communication process. Maybe when it comes down to the communication process, your partner, gives you full-blown medical reports and you're the type of person that shuts down and doesn't express how you feel, which is very, very conflicting. Mm-hmm. Maybe your partner is very adventurous and you're very introverted and you don't like to go along with them to the things that they like to do, and that's creating conflict. Whatever it is that you're dealing with, someone else has dealt with, but very few have risen to the occasion and made it better, because that takes work. So if you're watching this, then I applaud you. You're further ahead than the majority of people who are having relationship problems. It's just, what's going to be your next step? What are you going to do after you take this information that we're giving you? Are you ready to commit to making yourself better so your relationship can become better? And maybe you have kids. And remember, if you do have children, I did an Instagram post and a Facebook post a while back saying that kids don't do what you say. They always do what you do. And so you are guiding them because they're watching you. Mm-hmm. So every move they make, they're making the same move. And, if you can't invest in yourself, invest in your partner, because, a lot of their happiness lies within the things that you're doing and who you are today. Maybe it's your kids. You really need to find that why that's going to make you do the work. And you're going to have to sacrifice some things that I can tell you aren't really bringing a lot of value to your life. Of a lot of us, look at the time that we spend during a day, doing things that aren't productive or really bringing a lot of value to our lives. There is pockets throughout the day where, you can invest in yourself and it'll reap dividends down the road.
Yeah, 100%. And I just want to finish with this thought of, when we enter relationships, we enter in the notion that, or this idea that it's going to look and feel a certain way. Okay. So we invest in that. We don't invest in the thought of, okay, well, if these scenarios pop up, how would I deal with them? Or how would I deal with a lot of the uncertainty that does inevitably come with relationships? Because that's where the work starts, where it's like, okay, I know this is going to take work. I know this is going to take an effort, but nobody's taught that. Okay. Just like how we say schools don't teach kids about, financial freedom and, setting them up for success in certain areas. Nobody teaches people at a young age. Most people aren't taught, some are, how to navigate relationships in a certain way. So people are figuring it out as they go along. So by researching and having this information ahead of time and talking to people who are, in it, gives you some of those resources. It's just like why people go to marriage classes before getting married, right? They're trying to help you through some of that, but they don't kind of pave the way for, oh, there's a big bump in this road. What are you going to do? How are you going to strategize? What tools can you use to navigate it? And it's just like anything else, there's a fairy tale story that has been painted for years when it's not realistic. What's realistic is life. Life happens, things happen. There's going to be interruptions. There's going to be pitfalls. There's going to be, very, very many joyous occasions. There's going to be a lot of downs and there's going to be a lot of ups. And it's understanding that no matter what, you're going to use the tools to get through it, because it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. What are the lessons that you need to learn? And you navigate it that way. You don't play the victim, right? You become the hero, like Sam says all the time. Because once you get out of that ego and you get into your higher self portion of it all, you are so thankful for the lessons, because you are able to grow. That person that was sent to you or you involved yourself with, they're your lesson. They become your teacher. What is it that you need to learn along the way? Get out of your head, get out of your ego, look from the bird's eye view. What is it that you need to learn in a lot of these situations that people bring into your life? And that's all I kind of wanted to finish on, because a lot of people are very ego invested into relationships. And, you know, that service portion kind of is pushed to the wayside. So if we get back to that, then, you know, there's so much growth and, you know, learning to be done in any relationship that you choose.
I know, I agree. And you touched base on something, the fairy tale relationship.
Yeah.
I think what we forget, if you looked at any fairy tale movie that we watched, at some point within that movie, there was a struggle.
Yeah.
There was a challenge and obstacle that pulled them apart. But what brought them together was who they decided to be after the struggle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so the fairy tale is, yeah, it's not always sunshine and rainbows, but it's the fact that, you know, while you're going through the storm, you decide to go through it together.
Yeah.
And that's what makes you stronger.
100%. 100%. So on that note, is there anything else you want to add, Sam?
No, I think that's it. I mean, guys, you know, the most valuable commodity on the planet is time. And, you know, with a relationship, you know, there's one thing that I've learned along the way in my own, and the things that I've learned from people that I look up to, is that, you know, your relationship kind of decides how every other area of your life will be affected.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if there's one area of your life that you should invest the most, it is in your relationship, because it'll reap dividends in all areas of your life.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Well, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, this is the relationship series, always talking about the matters of the heart and mind. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to notify. Whoa, that was really loud.
Make sure they hit the like button.
Yeah. So once again, thank you for joining us this evening. Have an awesome night. Ciao for now.